Have you gone through the content which I have asked you to just read, which is available on your e-Gyan Kosh? Did you find some time to read that?
Yes, I do.
Okay. What about Farida? Farida, am I audible to you?
Yes, yes, you are. I did find some time to go through it.
Okay, okay.
Yes, yes.
Uh, it's already 7. Let us start with the counseling, and I think that by the time the others will also join, Smriti ma'am is a bit occupied, so I will be starting the second academic counseling session. In between, I would like to, I have to admit few of the participants, those who would be joining. So kindly excuse me for that. I would be requesting you that I'll be closing my screen and then going back and joining the participants, because I can see hardly 7, 8 participants have joined. So let us start with the second module, or the second block for today. As discussed with you all yesterday, I have already informed you that we are going to cover these academic counseling sessions in 4 blocks. We have completed our first block yesterday, which was an introduction about HR management, meaning, its importance, need of HRM. We have discussed about the functions of human resource management. If you remember, we have talked about all the important functions, that is procurement, starting from procurement, then training and development, compensation, integration function. We have discussed that in brief. Today, what we are going to discuss in our second academic counseling is, I am going to start with the first important function of human resource management. If you remember, we have already discussed that yesterday, that HR functions are classified into two. First is managerial functions, and second is operative functions. Managerial functions, as informed from my end, I said it is planning, organizing, directing, controlling. And when we talk about operative functions are all those activities in which the HR manager is involved on day-to-day basis. So from that only, the first function, that is procurement, which is also called as employment function, or we talk about that, we call that as sourcing function, HR sourcing function. So just give me a minute. I'm sharing my screen with you all. As you are able to see the content, just let me know. Okay, is the screen visible to all of you?
Yes, ma'am. It's busy.
Yeah, yes. Possible.
Yes,
Okay,
yes, ma'am.
It's okay.
just give me a second, 1 minute. Okay, so we'll start with the fourth unit, that is your first function of HR. If you remember, we have already discussed about that in procurement, when we actually want to invite people, we have to do HR planning. So that is what briefly I have explained you yesterday. Today we'll take that some part of it in detail. I will be talking about certain terminologies, that what actually HR planning is, what are the different levels of HR planning, how it is done, what is the process of HR planning, and then finally we'll come to that if there is a shortage in the organization, so how do you do the analysis, and if suppose there is excess of the HR working in the organization. So how do you retrench them or you lay off them? So to begin with, if I say what is HR planning, again I repeat, I'm using your e-Gyan Kosh content so that it is easy for you to refer afterwards also. HR planning in very layman's language, if I say so, it is planning of the human resource which is working in the organization. It is basically, if I put that into the words of different authors, they have defined that it is a kind of a strategy which helps you to acquire, utilize, develop, and retain the human resources in an enterprise. So acquiring means to procure them, to get them. Utilization means how you can get the best out of the employees to whom you have recruited, to develop them, and finally to retain them in the organization. So if I talk about that, what is the basic objective of doing this HR planning? It is done because you want to do proper, or I would say optimum utilization of the human resource which is working with you. So I can say that optimum utilization of existing human resource, if you are able to do it in a right manner, we say that the HR planning is really very effective. So when we talk about that, what are the different objectives or benefits or need of doing HR planning in an organization? There are various objectives, benefits, or I would say need that why HR planning is done. To list a few, I would say first and very important is to do an assessment regarding the manpower need. We have already discussed this part yesterday where I said if you have manpower which is working with you, so you would like to know that whether you have manpower which is in excess, or you have people those who are, or there's a shortage of human resource, I would say. So to do this future analysis, to make plans for future, you go for doing the HR planning, because that helps you to make plan even for the recruitments, selections, and retrenchments. Then if I say that what could be the other objectives of doing manpower planning? So if I want to utilize my manpower in the best possible manner, I need to know their skills. So HR planning helps me as a manager in the organization to assess their skills which is actually required in the organization. So if supposingly I do manpower planning, I'll come to know what is the caliber of the employees who are working with me, and in future in that industry, what is the requirement of the HR. If I need to train them accordingly, if I need to develop them, or if supposingly I need to fire them, then I would be doing, or this manpower planning will help me to take all these decisions. Just a second. Okay, so we continue with what are the objectives or benefits or need of doing HR planning. So I was talking about that it helps you to determine your training and development needs. Anticipating surplus. Anticipation means to do your planning for future, to understand that in future whether the HR which is working with you, looking as per the demand of the industry, looking as per the demand of the things which are happening in the industry, your competitors, how they are coming up with different strategies. So you do an anticipation that whether there is surplus or shortage of staff. So you don't want that there should be unnecessarily dismissals or detentions in the organization. So HR planning helps you even for this entire process. Even if we do HR planning properly, we have a very strong control on the wage and salary cost. As you all know, my dear learners, that if you are hiring somebody in the organization, you need to pay or remunerate that person. We have already discussed some part of it yesterday, where I have discussed with you the compensation function which deals with wage and salary administration. So when my HR planning is done in an effective manner, I would be able to control my cost. I would be able to control my wage and salary expenses, because I would be knowing that what is the right number of HR which is required in my organization. So with all these objectives which are listed, as you can see on the PDF which is shared with you, it is something which helps you to ensure higher labor productivity. It helps you to do proper career planning for every employee of the organization, to plan up different succession programs. Succession programs means we have already discussed yesterday that there is a difference between training and development. I said that employees are trained in the organization, and the managers, the upcoming managers, we develop them. So if I am planning a succession program, or I'm planning that who is going to be the successor for different various positions in my organization, so manpower planning or human resource planning will help me to identify people having that potential and to give them that particular kind of training through these different type of MDP programs which are conducted for them. I hope the objective and a very small introduction to HR planning, what does it mean? It is clear to you?
Yes, it's
Yes, ma'am.
clear,
Yes,
doctor.
it is.
Okay, okay.
It's clear.
Okay.
Clear.
Let us move
Yeah.
ahead. Okay, thank you so much. Let us move ahead with what are the benefits of human resource planning. When we do HR planning, as I just said, it helps you to create a reservoir of talent because you are doing planning of the human resource which is working with you. So you know who's having best knowledge, skill, ability, talent to do a particular task in the organization. You can prepare that HR or prepare the HR for the future needs. You don't have to run for HR if there is any kind of immediate requirement. You know that in future after I would say how many months or how many I would say let's say a period of time you require potential employees who are going to take up certain assignments. So it basically provides a basis for human resource development as well. As I've just shared with you that how does it helps in career and succession planning. So if you will go through these points which are written regarding the benefits of human resource planning, it will be more clear to you. Now, there are certain reasons of doing HRP, which is also human resource planning. We will discuss it at both the levels, that is macro and micro level. Macro basically means when I'm talking about the industry level, I'm talking about at the nation's level. So, if I talk about doing the need for doing HRP at macro level is it gives you a kind of an understanding about that what is the the number of educated or the unemployed people, those who are there, actually there is a shortage, or you have people those who have variety of skills. So it gives you an emphasis at the employment, understanding the employment and the unemployment situation of that particular, I would say, nation at large. So if you do HR planning, you come to know that in that industry what are the skill set, what people are possessing in your in your surrounding, in your external environment. So that will help you to draw an effective recruitment program. It will help you to come up with a good program to retain the people, because you know that what is the actual supply of HR in that particular industry. So that is one example. Then moving further, if I say technology is something which keeps on changing. And with all these technological changes, there are times when we see that the HR becomes, they are not that comfortable in accepting to certain changes which are happening in the environment. But as it is something which is a requirement and the management have to give them the training for that. So when you do this analysis of HRP, we come to know that at the macro level, that means at the nation's level, what are the different extensive or rapid growth which is happening. So you will be able to come up with different types of job contents, and their context could be clearly defined. So these changes which are happening will help you to retrain the employees accordingly. It will help you to plan your manpower so that they can be utilized in an intensive and a systematic manner. Then, if you read out a few other points which are written at macro level, if I say, just have this understanding that macro is something we are talking from the nation's point of view, from the industry's point of view. So, there are certain demographic changes. Like if I talk about in your country and in my country, there are different demographic changes related to the human resource in terms related to, let's say, literacy, in terms related to, let's say, technical input, social backgrounds. So with the changing profile of the workforce, human resource planning helps you to understand that in your particular country where you are running your business, what is the availability of HR, what is the background of the HR which is available, what is their skill set, what is their knowledge level, and then it helps you to do the entire HR planning at the organization level. There are various influences also from the government. As you all know, that government, if I talk about, we are talking about the legal restrictions which come. So government, they play a very, very important role. They control and they make changes in the legislation with regard to certain affirmative actions which are for the disadvantaged groups. So like it could be related to working conditions, it could be relating to the number of hours that HR is working. It could be related to hiring, let's say, people, if child employment, if I say you hire somebody who's below a certain age, so that is also a restriction from the government end. So there are certain restrictions on certain jobs, and that is happening all at macro level. So if you do proper human resource planning, you will come to understand that how do you need to recruit people, what are the laws or legal requirements which government has framed, because accordingly you will be doing the hiring, accordingly you can hire and fire people or come up with your own organizational policies. So there is a huge impact of all these factors at the macro level, which ultimately affects the micro level changes or the micro level decisions. That is, when I say micro, I'm talking about at the individual organizations level. So when we do HR planning, there are certain very important determinants which play a very important role. We have partially talked about it yesterday. I would quickly talk about it today because we have many other areas to cover. If you can see right now, it is talking about external and internal factors. Those who are there with me in my yesterday's academic counseling, we have already discussed about the external factors, which are the political, economic, social, technological, international factors. And if I talk about internal factors, I said that they are those factors which are an organization's at organization's control. So I talk about, let's say, organization's policy, organization strategy, the formal and the informal groups which are there, the time horizons which are there, the trade unions which are in the organization, individual organization, the productional operators or companies policy, I would say. These are all controllable factors. So when you do human resource planning, you do a thorough study of all these two things, that is both these two factors, external as well as internal factors. I would like to add here one thing: external factors are beyond the control of the HR manager or the organization. They have to adapt to all these changes which are happening in the same manner. Only the internal factors, that is policy of the organization, strategy of the organization, analysis how you need to do for that particular job, the quality of the HR or the type of the information what you require. Let's say talking about the trade union, these are all internal and can all anytime be changed, modified. It can be adjusted as per the need of that particular organization. So just go through these external and internal factors. It is not that very complicated that you will not be able to understand. To read those things on the PDF which is there, which is shared with you, you can see external factors listed as government policies, level of economic development which is there, business environment. Again, environment is again something which is talking about the external business environment here. Changes of technology, because you cannot ignore technological changes, you have to adapt them, and that is something again which is beyond the control of the organization. Whatever technological changes are happening, you need to train your HR accordingly. So when you do manpower planning, when you do human resource planning, you understand that at industry level, at countries level, at global level, that means at macro level, if I say, what are the technological changes which are happening, and how do you actually train your human resource accordingly so that they are more efficient and you can get the best out of them. Similarly, when we talk about the internal factors, see, you can read those 4 5 internal factors which are listed: company's policy and strategy, the HR policies, job analysis. Just give me a second. Okay, so is the screen visible to all of you?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay.
Yes, it is.
Yeah,
Okay.
visible.
Yeah. So all these areas, if I talk about internal factors, these are all those areas, those concerns which are always under the control of the organization. That's the reason we call them internal factors. If I want to change my policy, my strategy, that is completely in my hand. If I want to hire HR, I want to fire HR, I can always do that. That is something which is again in my hand. I want to go for expansion, I want to go for diversification, I want to come up with different, need to go for various alliances. Everything, all these strategical changes can be done at my individual level. That is why we say it, it is something which is in the control of the organization. So, same manner, if I say, these are those areas, but when you do HR planning, you need to consider both of them. I just cannot go with the internal factors and can just exclude all the external factors which are there. I would not be able to do a proper human resource planning. For me as a manager to do a proper HR planning, I have to have an understanding about both the external as well as the internal factors. Coming to the next part in that particular content which is shared with you is levels of HR planning. We do human resource planning, as I just said, at national level. So government, if you talk about, they keep certain objectives, they make certain plans, and then they come up with different types of policies, government policies at national level, where they say that they are promoting employment, they want a particular sector to grow, they want that more human resource should be hired. They have different successive plans which they make because they want to see the growth and development of the people who are there in that society. So human resource planning, if I say at national level, is something which is taken care by the government. If I talk about government, also specifically central government, when I say sectoral level, the HR planning is done. It is basically that particular state and central plannings which are done. So if I talk about in your country also, there are different types of levels of HR planning which is done. Your country's government, they have certain plans for the human resource, the workforce which is there. They don't want that unemployment should be a problem, so they do make their own plans. Then at the sectoral level, if I say, so at the state level and at the central level, again government plans certain human resource plannings are done, and according to different sectors, like if I say industrial sector, agriculture sector, manufacturing sector, there are different kinds of these HR planning done, that if you want to uplift a particular sector, you actually require hands, you require effective hands, and that you get through properly doing the human resource planning. Then we talk about the industry level. So industry is basically where you have many firms together. So when I'm talking about industry level, I can give you various examples. Like we have manufacturing industries, we have service industries, we have production industries. So that is what is at industry level. So if you if you understand it, that what are the levels, it goes in this way. This is how it narrows down. It starts at national level, then it comes down at sectoral level, then we come down to the industry level, and then finally we have the HR planning which is done at the individual level, or we also call that as unit level. So unit level is more when we talk about firm doing the HR planning for themselves. So when I talk about individual firms, individual unit doing their manpower planning, doing their unit, their human resource planning, that is called as the unit level planning. I repeat this thing again. HR planning, when we do, there are 4 different types of level. If I talk about just a second. I would just like to share the screen and I would like to draw something. So just give me, I'll just show you with the whiteboard. Can you see the whiteboard? Just a minute, I'll share my entire screen and I think that becomes easy then. Is the whiteboard visible to all of you? Can you see the whiteboard?
Yes, I can see.
Okay, so if I talk about human resource planning at different levels, so we can, I just want to make this thing easy for you so that you remember. It will take a minute's time for me. So if I talk about HRP and various levels, let me just write down very quickly so that you remember also for your preparations what you do. I just wanted to say that it goes in this way. We started first at the national level, then you come down to the sectoral level. Learn this, remember this in this way only. Comes to industry level, and finally you have it at unit level. So when you talk about all these things, it is basically we mean to say that how does it go, see. So it is, this is something national level is at the broad level when we talk about. So this is where you are talking about doing HR planning at the country's level. That is what we mean by the national level, as I was just explaining you. More, if I narrow it down, it comes down to sectoral level. If I'll narrow it down, it will come down to industry level. And finally, if I say that HR planning, how it is done in the organization, so it is done at the unit level. So this is how it flows. What I meant to say was it is coming downwards, national, sectoral, industry, and then finally at the individual or the unit level where we do various types of HR planning, maybe departmental wise, divisional wise, different. If suppose that firm has different plants or different sister concerns, so you will be doing HR planning according to the different plants which that particular company is having. That is how the HR planning is done. Am I clear?
Yes, doctor.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. I hope you can see that document also with me. The screen is shared with you.
Yes,
Yes,
doctor.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, so let us start with what is the process of human resource planning. This is a very simple process, I would say, to understand, because as you all know, we are talking about human resource planning. So I have given you examples in the last class, that is the last academic counseling also, where I said when you want to do HR planning, first important thing is to do an assessment. To do assessment of whom? To do the assessment of the existing human resource which is working with you in the organization. So when I know that the people, those who are there with me, what is their knowledge level, what is their skill set, what is their ability they have, I would be having a clarity about the existing human resource. So I will be knowing their worth, I'll be knowing what talent they possess in themselves. Then afterwards, I will be doing two important things. This is how the entire planning process flows. That is doing demand forecasting and supply forecasting. Demand forecast. Forecast means planning. Demand means when I am understanding that what is the future requirement of HR. Remember, yesterday I have given you example that if in my HR planning I come to know that I have excess of people, there are more people working as required in the organization, so I will be going for firing them or retrenching them or terminating them from the organization. But when I do this demand forecasting and I come to know that in future I require more people having certain caliber, having certain, let's say, skill set, and I don't have them with me, so I will be able to do a proper analysis and I'll be able to do proper recruitment. So when I invite people, I would be having a clarity that what I am looking for in the HR which I want to recruit. So demand forecasting and supply forecasting are two important techniques which are used while you go for HR planning process. Now let us understand supply forecasting. Supply is something we are talking about that at industry level, at nations level, and in your organization level. What is the supply of human resource? See, demand is what is demanded, what is the expectation you have of human resource, and supply is something which is talking about that existingly in your organization, what kind, number, type, skill, knowledge, ability of people you have in the organization, in that industry, and at the nation at large. So when you understand, like suppose if I talk about certain jobs, you might be knowing that like certain jobs of IT, information technology, they are highly demanded. But if you go for looking the supply of the HR, which is having the knowledge, skill, and ability to do various kinds of jobs in IT, it may be either in excess or it may be in shortage. So, if at industry level, that means externally outside the organization also, the supply is limited, what do? We are ready to hire a person on a higher salary, on a higher wage. Why? Because it is demanded and supply is limited. So you pay that particular labor more wages, more salary, higher salary. Let's take this vice versa. Like if I talk about supply is an abundance of a particular job or of a particular, let's say, group of people, but they are not demanded in the organization. So, or they are averagely demanded in the industry or the organization. So, you may be hiring them or procuring them at an average salary. You will not be paying them a salary, which is where the, because you know that supply is too much, one person will leave or one HR will leave, you have another alternative who's ready to do that similar job for you, maybe at a lower wage or salary. So this is very important to do an understanding or a forecasting when you go for HR planning. So HR planning, I repeat again, how do we do the planning process? We start with first understanding or assessing what is the human resource, existing HR which is working with you, what is their talent. We call that as doing talent inventory. We try to understand the people, their skill set, their ability, and we try to figure out the inventory of the HR. We call that as talent inventory to assess the current human resources and how best they can be utilized. Then you try to forecast or predict future HR requirement, which is called as demand forecasting. what kind of skill is required, what kind of labor is available, what are the future demands of the industry, that is demand forecasting of human resource. Then you make certain you try to bring a match between these demand and supply. See, you are looking for people, you are doing HR planning, you're doing manpower planning. So what do you do? Once you have an understanding about the demand, you know whether it is going to be demanded in future in that industry, your competitors have started hiring them, and what is the supply of HR which is available. You will try to match the demand and supply by coming up with different policies, different ways. So certain action plans are made, that you might be looking for internal supply of HR. If you can promote them, you can give the higher ranks to them, jobs to them in the organization, so you don't have to look for HR outside the organization. Whereas if you feel that when you are matching the demand and supply, internally you don't have people who have that knowledge, skill, or ability which is required to do the job, then you will be going for recruitments outside the organization. And then finally you make an action plan which helps you to come up with different policies of recruitment, selection policies, to look for whether you will go for an internal recruitment, external recruitment, how you will come up with the job analysis, what will be the description and specification for that particular job which you have found that it is demanded in the organization and at the industry level. This is how we do the HR planning process. Is it clear?
Yes, it is.
Is it clear to all of you?
Yes, it's clear.
Okay.
Yes.
Yes, ma'am.
So let me move forward. I am basically trying to focus today more on the first function of HR, that is procurement function. As I said, your second block is all about your procurement function only. So once you do the entire HR planning, then you come to the second important area, which is called as recruitment. There are certain things which are already mentioned in this PDF, and I have spoken some part of it. So I'm just quickly going down because it is already 7:40 and we have unit 5, 6, and 7 also to cover. So I'll just start with the fifth unit. I've given you a brief introduction about unit 4. Now, when you read that, you will be having more clarity about it, that what actually HR planning is. Now, once you do your HR planning, then comes doing a proper job analysis. You make a job design and you do job evaluation. Job evaluation, job analysis, job design, these are three different terms having different meaning. In job analysis, when we talk about, just a second. Okay, so when we talk about job analysis, what basically is job analysis? Job analysis is to do a systematic, I would say, in a systematic way, you try to gather information about the job and the relationship between that particular job, that how it is going to be connected with. So you do HR planning, you make a job design, your all recruitment strategies are made after you do a proper and thorough job analysis. In this job analysis, you try to fetch data or information related to important jobs and the skill required to perform that job effectively. Because ultimately, if you want to do the jobs in an organization in an effective manner, you want to hire people effectively, you should have an understanding at your end first that to whom you want to recruit. So for that job analysis, we say it is classified, when you do job analysis, it is classified into two broad categories, that is job description and doing job specifications. Let us talk about these two terms. What are job descriptions and specifications? I'll before we move to description and specification, I'll read out few objectives of job analysis so that it becomes more clear to you. When you talk about doing job analysis, as I just said, the major purpose of doing job analysis is to now establish a document which will help you know that if you want to hire people, what are those things what you are looking for in that particular job. So it is job relatedness. You try to have a clarity that what kind of job are you going to create, because you have already done manpower planning. Now you know that there is a requirement for a particular job in the organization, or there's requirement of human resource. So you are now, before you invite people in the organization, you are doing job analysis. So you try to, there are certain objectives, as I said, to have a proper understanding about what will be the selection plan, to know about that what is going to be the salary which you will fix for that particular job. You try to understand that what is the need of that job in the organization. You try to understand that how it is going to affect different positions which are there, already existing positions in the organization. How you will plan up your recruitment process, what should be the salary which you fix, or rather I put it in this way, how, what should be the wage and salary for that particular job. So, and job analysis helps you to give answers for all these areas. So this is, that is why we say it is very, very important to do job analysis, also because when we do a proper job analysis, you do a proper recruitment, because this gives you a clarity, you know what you're looking for. It gives you a kind of an understanding that what actually is what actually is required in that particular human resource to whom you want to hire. So this, if this step is very clear, or if this step is something which is done in a very I would say a planned manner, then ultimately what happens is your recruitment process becomes successful. Let me take an example by just quoting here that, let's say I have done manpower planning, and after doing manpower planning, I haven't done any job analysis, and I've just randomly, put an ad in the newspaper inviting the candidates, that those who are having knowledge, skill, or ability related to, let's say, any particular area, or let's say marketing area, they can apply in my organization. Now what will happen here, I'll have n number of people, because from the candidate's point of view, he always feels, or she always feels that he or she is fit for the job. So I would be having bulk applications which I'll receive. I have no criteria, I haven't mentioned that what is the qualification I'm looking for, I haven't mentioned what is the experience what I'm looking for in that candidate, I haven't mentioned the knowledge, skill, and the attitude what I'm looking for in that person. So it's just an invitation without having any description or specification. Understand this thing in this way, that the more you make a description, you more you give your specifications, and you give a clarity about that particular job, your recruitment process will be very, very effective. So job analysis is basically this only. Job analysis is where you address these concerns, that for that particular job, what is the role, responsibility, what is going to be the duty of that particular job holder, what is the knowledge, skill, ability what you are looking for in that particular job holder, what is the experience level, qualification. So we specify certain things. Suppose I'm looking for specific skills in that particular job, so if I do job analysis, I will be specifying that, I will be mentioning that, and that will make my recruitment process very, very convenient for me, and I'll be able to select the right person for the right job. Is it clear till here?
Yes, very clear.
It's
Okay.
clear.
I'm happy that you are able to understand what I'm actually trying to explain you. Okay, I just thought I'll show you a PPT on this topic. Just give me a minute's time. I have a PPT with me which has certain examples also. I'll just share that PPT with all of you. I'm sharing the entire screen with you. As you can, as you see the PPT, just let me know. Is the PPT visible to all of you?
Yes, ma'am. We can see it, ma'am.
Okay, okay. So my basic idea why I actually wanted to show you this content was, see, look here, when you will see the entire HR planning process, how does it goes? It starts from the organizational objective and strategy. Why do we keep organizational objective and strategies at the top? Because every organization has its own objective, has their own different plans, policies, strategies, what they make. It could be an organization is at its just the, I would say, as a startup, and it is just entering into the industry, they would be having different objectives and strategies. Whereas if I compare that particular organization with a firm which is in that industry from last 10-15 years, they would be enjoying a boom in the industry, and they would be having a separate objective and strategy for their manpower planning. And it would be that there is another firm, let's say the third example which I take, that an organization which is into losses, they would be having their own organizational objectives and strategies. Just a second, somebody is trying to join. Yeah, so I was just talking about that. That's the reason we have mentioned organizational objective and strategies at the top. Then what we do is we do scanning, which is also called as the HR scanning. Scanning is basically done to understand the external environment. When we do a scanning of the external environment, we come to know, or rather we have more clarity about the external environment, by, I've just spoken few minutes back, by understanding the political, social, economical, technological, legal changes which are happening in the external environment. Again, I say, all beyond the control of the organization. So you just scan. You cannot make any changes, but you're just trying to understand that what is happening in the external environment and how it is going to affect my HR planning process. So once you do that, then the third step which comes is you do an analysis of an internal inventory. We have already discussed few minutes back where I said that you try to know what kind of HR you have within your organization. So that is internal inventory, what capabilities they have, what skill set they have, what knowledge level they have. Because if you are doing manpower planning, and if I have people already having certain skill, knowledge, and ability to perform a particular job, I'll go for more for internal recruitments, because ultimately that is also going to boost the morale of my existing employee rather than going for an external recruitment. So when we do this manpower planning, these things, it gives us a clarity. You come to know more about your internal inventory, your internal HR, and you will be able to retain effective people, good people in the organization, because you will be giving them the chance to come forward to take up certain jobs, certain positions of higher rank. They'll also be satisfied. You will also be happy that you will be saving on your cost, not looking for a person who is new to the organization. You need to induct him, train him, make him understand, spend some time making him comfortable with the organizational climate, because an already a previous or the existing employee who's there, he's well aware about all these things. So that becomes more easy and convenient for the HR manager. Forecasting, we have just discussed few minutes back again, that what HR forecasting is. Forecasting basically means to do an analysis about the organizational need for people, that are you actually having a requirement for people in the organization, and you do a survey of people which is available. So supposingly I do a forecast and I come to know that there is requirement of four different let's say jobs in my organization, and I'm creating those jobs in my organization. When I do the survey of people who are available with me, that is with my internal inventory, I will come to know what is their skill, knowledge, and ability, what they possess. And if it matches with that particular job, I'll promote them internally, finally, which will save my cost also, and which will boost the morale of my existing HR. Then you come up with your HR strategies and plans, and then you go and decide, finally, what would be your uh, recruitment and selection strategy. Is it clear?
Yes, yes.
Yes, ma'am. Yes.
Okay. I would like to introduce a concept which is also there in your document, PDF document. But I think as we are talking about manpower planning, nowadays what we do is everything is digitalized. See, I'm taking a class with you today here, taking a counseling session with you. I'm here in India, you are in different parts of the world. We are connected through technology. So when we talk about, doing different types of, I would say, hiring or coming up with different policies or managing HR. I put it in that way, taking care of their compensation, different, procurement needs, or taking care of different areas in the organization. There is a very common system which is used nowadays, which is called as human resource information system. This is basically an information system which helps you to do your rather to perform different functions of HR with the help of the IT, with the help of the information technology. So human resource information system is basically like, suppose if I want to go for planning of HR, and I'm let's say I have already my existing inventory. So my HRIS would be having the record of all my human resource which are working, what is their experience level, what is their knowledge, skill set, what they have. And like if supposingly there is a promotion which is due for an employee, so if suppose I have more number of people, my HRIS will help me to remember that yes, this person has finished a tenure of, let's say, 5 years or 4 years and is due for promotion. Or if I'm looking for, let's say, any kind of a new job to be created, looking at my HRIS, I have the data of the human resource with me, I can always match that. So manually, what was done initially, nowadays what you do, your recruiting sources, your application, if suppose there are, you are tracking, you want to track any application of an applicant. So with HRIS today, things have become very, very easy. It is very convenient. It saves time. It helps you to do many calculations and understanding the tedious things which were done previously by the manager manually. Now it is done with the help of system. Is it clear?
Yes, it's clear.
Yes, it is.
Okay. So I thought I'll just show you something related to the job analysis when you do. See, this is what I actually wanted to show you, that when we do job analysis, as you can see on the slide, there are few things which are written, that how do you do job analysis? What are the methods of doing job analysis? What are the sources from whom you get the data of job analysis, and who conducts this job analysis? So this is something which is already there in that PDF. It is just that I'm showing you this PPT so that it is, you're able to connect rather than reading those things which are there in the PDF. I thought I'll share this and it becomes more interesting. Now let's talk about the first one, that is method. As I just said, when we do job analysis, we prepare a job description and we prepare a job specification. Just a second. Okay, so I was just talking about that when we do job analysis, what do? We prepare job descriptions and specifications. Let me now give you certain examples of description and specification. I think first, then I'll come to that page. See, look here. This is just a example which is related to job analysis, which is done for a job of compensation manager. Who is a compensation manager? Can anybody give me the answer for it?
A compensation manager is someone who manages the salary and wages of the HR.
Very good. It's absolutely correct. Anybody else who would like to add something more in that? Who is a compensation manager? Does he only manages the salary and the wages? How do
So
we? Yes.
In a way, compensation manager is more or less HR, human resources manager.
Yeah, it
Someone
is
who needs to
one of the
develop.
functions of HR. So, Masumba, if I talk about that HR manager and compensation manager, what is the difference between the two? I'll give you a very, a relatable example that if it is a startup and you are just beginning with any, let's say, organization and you have limited funds, usually with startups, the biggest I would say limitation is that they have limited funds. So in that case, what happens is one person plays different roles. That person will be the HR manager. He will be taking care of the marketing also. He will be doing playing the roles of accounts also. He will be doing the other things also. Other taking care of every activity in the organization. Why? Because it is not sure that that particular firm will survive in that industry or not. So what does that manager does? Rather than appointing more people and increasing the cost, he tries that he only plays multiple roles of marketing, finance, HR, and does everything. But when it is a big organization and you have, let's say, the organization is there in that industry from last 5 7 years or 10 years, you have good number of HR which is working with you, then you have different functions of HR where you have a procurement manager. That means a person working in the HR department, but specifically he's taking care of recruitments, manpower planning, selections, all those areas. Similarly, we have a compensation manager. So, who's a compensation manager? Again, as I just said, because the organization is big, so that compensation manager is planning. He's doing the studying what government is coming up with different laws related to compensation. He'll understand all those things. He'll help the management to draw proper wage and salary structure. He'll come up with different incentives, different techniques of motivating the employees, bonus schemes, how what the entire calculation of the wage and salary administration is taken care by the compensation manager. If it is a small organization, HR manager only does the procurement, does the take care of the compensation, takes care of the training, takes care of the integration of the HR, and plays every role. But as the organization grows, for every function of HR, we appoint managers. Is it clear?
Yes, well explained.
Just give me 1 minute. So this is what I was just trying to explain you, that what basically the HR compensation manager does. So I'll share my screen again, because with that example what I have just shown you, we will try to understand the job analysis, the entire job analysis. See, look here, the title of the job is of compensation manager, and the department where he or she would be appointed is the human resource department. There are certain important things which are mentioned towards my right hand side of that PPT, that what is going to be the job code, what will be the grade of the job, what is the EEOC class, that is equal employment opportunity class, what will be the FLSA status, that means at the I would say at the global level, what is going to be the status of that job. There's a general summary given, see, about the job. What is that general summary? That what actually the compensation manager is supposed to do. So they have mentioned that he is responsible for designing and doing the administration of all cash compensation programs. He will ensure or she will ensure the proper consideration of the relationships of compensation to the performance. So that means he need to also understand, or rather take care of the performance, because performance appraisal becomes the base for the compensation when you fix for a particular employee. And also he needs to or she needs to consult the compensations with the management, with the supervisors, and to guide them accordingly what are the changes happening in the industry at the industry level. So as we see, there are certain duties and responsibilities which are listed there. These duties and responsibilities are basically the description of the job. That means you're describing that he has to prepare and maintain job descriptions for all jobs, and he has to periodically review and update them. He has to ensure that companies' compensation rates are in line with the pay structure. That means what the competitors are paying, what is happening in that industry, how do you actually try to bring a balance between the pay structure at the national level, industry level, and at your company or individual level. Compensation manager is also supposed to develop and administer a good performance appraisal program. As I just shared, performance appraisal becomes a base for finalizing the compensations. So he has to monitor the performance appraisal also, and he's going to be an instrument in ensuring that the performance appraisal system is integrated in a proper manner. Then he has to direct the entire job evaluation process. I'll talk about job evaluation in the coming few minutes, that what job evaluation is and how it is different from performance appraisal or performance evaluation. So he has to conduct all these things. Initial evaluation needs to be done from his side. He needs to do research, try to come up with different executive compensation issues. He has to assist the development and the administration for all the annual bonus payments to the senior managers and executives. He have to perform certain duties which are given to him by the, as the situation dictates. If supposedly there is a situation where he's supposed to do more work, which is listed, the duty and responsibility, he's supposed to do that also. That is all which is included under job analysis description part. We call that as job description. Now look here in the slide right now, the PPT which I am showing you. Next slide, it talks about job specification. What is
Excuse
specification?
me, doctor.
Yeah.
Your screen.
Yeah.
We can't see your screen, ma'am.
Oh, I'm
There is
so
no
sorry.
screen shown.
Just a second. I'll share that again. I was under the impression that the screen is visible. Is it there now?
Not yet.
Not yet, ma'am.
Just give me a second. Is the screen visible now?
Not yet.
Huh?
Not yet.
Not yet.
Not yet. Okay, just give me a minute. I'll stop the entire sharing and I'll share that again. There are times when we have these technological glitches. So just excuse me for that and I'll share that PPT again. As you see that PPT, please let me know, learners.
Yes, we can.
Is it there?
It is muted.
Yes,
It's
it's
visible.
there. I see.
It is now visible, yes.
Okay, thank you so much. So now I'll just quickly say what I was talking about. See, if you can see on the slide right now, it is talking about the title of the job, the department, a small little summary about that particular job, and there are certain duties and responsibilities which are listed. I've just spoken about these duties and responsibilities, so I'll not repeat that thing again. What I meant to say is these are all those things which are covered under job description. Now, what do we mean by job specification? See, this is job description. But when I talk about specifying that in the compensation manager, what am I looking, in the area of knowledge, skill, and ability he should have. So this is specifying that thing. So you will specify the education, you will specify the experience, you will specify the knowledge, skill, and ability. We also call that as KSA, and that will give me a clarity about more about that particular job while I'm doing my recruitment. So it is one step prior to recruitment what I'm doing. So now what I'll do is I'll write down that he should have knowledge of compensation and HR practices because I'm hiring him for the post of compensation manager. He should have the knowledge of doing proper job analysis. He should have a knowledge of doing performance appraisal to design a proper performance appraisal. He should have skill of writing, clarity, with clarity, the job descriptions, the memos, the letters, and the proposals, because he's going to take care of the compensation part. So he need to understand, he has to have that skill and ability of making plans, prioritizing things, understanding what are the compensation policies and practices. He, as you know, today nowadays we work everything on the these using different apps and softwares, MS Office. So he should also be having a skill of using these spreadsheets, database softwares, word processing if it needs to be done from his or her end. So he should be having that skill or ability. So I've listed few knowledge, skill, and abilities what a person should have as a compensation manager. Also, if you'll come down to the second paragraph, it states what? The education and the experience. So if I am looking for a managerial job, definitely I'll not be looking for a fresher. I would be looking for a person who has certain experience in that department, that is HR department. So I would be looking for a person who would be having 3 to 5 years of experience. So I've mentioned that if you read that paragraph, it says that position requires an equivalent of a college degree in business administration or psychology. Or maybe a person, if like suppose I'm doing it for my organization, I can also mention there that he should have a master's degree, an MBA in, let's say, HR field, HR specialization. So this is what I will mention explicitly, the education and experience which is required. And I've also listed what are the physical requirements I'm looking for that particular individual. As you all know, for a compensation manager, this is going to be more of office job. He is not to run from one end to the other. So if he has certain disabilities, that is, let's say he is not able to walk or stand properly, or lift things, or push things, or pull things, or kneel down, so that is not the prime requirement. But what is the prime requirement which I'm looking in his or her physical requirement is his seeing or the vision ability should be good, because he has to read reports, he has to use system. He should have a good hearing ability, because he should be able to hear and communicate with the co-workers. So these are the skills which will be required on a regular basis. So as you see on the slide, it is talking about certain physical requirement. And what is the requirement? Is it rarely required, occasionally required, frequently required, or it is regularly required? Can you see that?
Yes, yes.
So what I have actually tried to do is, with taking this example, I have tried to explain you the entire job analysis process. How does it goes? Because when we talk about it, I'm talking about the content. But when I take an example and I show you that particular thing by taking an example, that how job analysis is done, in which manner job description is made, which manner you make the job specification, I believe that it gives you more clarity about that particular topic. If it is clear, can we move ahead?
Yes, it's
Yes,
clear.
ma'am, it's clear, ma'am.
Okay.
Yes, it is clear.
Okay.
Yes, it is clear.
I'm
One
sharing.
quick question.
Yes.
The job description has to do with the job. Why specification has to do with the individual.
Yes, job description is more towards the nature of the job, the duties of the job, responsibilities of the job. Whereas when we talk about job specification, it is more towards an individual. The skill in individual, the knowledge in the individual, the ability in the individual, the experience what he or she should possess for that particular job. That is what job specification is.
All right, thank you, ma'am.
Okay. Let me just share the entire screen with you again so that we can discuss from your content which is there. Is that PDF document open and it is visible to you?
Yes, ma'am.
Oh, I missed one thing here. I was actually showing you that PPT. and I wanted to discuss methods of job analysis with you. Because again, as I said, that PPT would be more effective than your PDF notes, and it will give you more clarity related to the methods. Yeah, I'll just put this on the slide mode. Can you see this?
Yes, ma'am, we can see it, ma'am.
Okay. Now, we will be discussing about all these points which are mentioned here, and this is what is basically your the unit what we are doing. It covers all these things. It is there in the PDF. Just go through that later, and you can read that, and it will help you to connect with what I will be explaining now. As I just said, that when we do job analysis, we prepare a job description that is regarding the duty, role, responsibility of that job holder. When we make a job specification, we talk more about the skill, knowledge, and ability. Now, when I'm doing job analysis, what are the different methods of doing it? That means if I want to know about the job, that whether there's a requirement for that particular job, does it actually is something which is missing, or it should be there in my organization, and that is the job which is really demanded in the industry. There are various methods to know about it. First important method is by questionnaire method. You might have heard about it. Usually we practice it in education field also, that if I want to know something from you, I want to get a feedback, let's say about this class, so I'll list few questions and I'll ask you to give me your responses, and I'll come to know whether the class was effective or not, whether you had any concerns, whether your queries were addressed or not. It could be any set of questions which I frame. Same manner, if I want to know about the job requirement in the organization, I'll do it in the same way. I'll prepare a questionnaire. Questionnaire is basically where you have list of set of questions which will talk more about that particular job. You can frame those questions depending upon the requirement of that particular job, and you try to get those questionnaires or that questionnaire filled by the existing employees, supervisors, the managers, those who are there in the organization, and they'll give you the clarity. Many times what happens is there are times when we see that the HR which is working with you may not be very comfortable sharing anything when you ask him or her through, let's say, a personal interview face to face. But when you share a questionnaire and you want to know about any job which should be created, and he or she is excessively burdened, and he feels that if there is a new job or an a separate job for a particular different area, and a job holder comes for that, his or her work burden will reduce. So he might be he or she would be very comfortable giving response with the help of a questionnaire. So this questionnaire method is said to be very, very effective, because there are different types of questions also. I'll just throw quickly some light on that, which where we have open-ended and close-ended questions. That is where you give the choice to the respondent to write. The space is given, that is open-ended question. And close-ended is where you have certain, I would say, choices which are given related to a particular question what you are asking to the job holder or to the employees, and they have to choose among those choice only. So basically, this is one method of collecting the data about that. Is there any requirement for a job, in the company or in that particular firm? The second method could be interview method. Interview method is where you call the employees face to face, individually. You interact with them, you talk to them, you ask them certain questions. They might be a bit reluctant, they might not be that comfortable in opening up very easily, because usually face to face we are not able to address our real concerns. Like if management calls you and they say, are you excessively burdened with the work which is given to you, or do you feel that there should be a different job or a separate job for a particular work? So you might not be that comfortable that you would be filling a questionnaire, because they are usually anonymous. Then You have an observation method also. What observation means? Observation is basically which is done by the managers or by the supervisors. By looking at the current HR, they try to observe that what is the I would say efficiency of the HR. Are they working too hard? Are they not able to complete their task on a given, let's say in a given day's time? The number of hours which they have to work every day, they have to stay back and they have to finish the task, and they are not able to go back on time, and they are in stress. Their productivity is declining. So that's an observation. You're not talking to them, you're not asking them one by one, you are not getting a questionnaire filled by them, but by your own observation as a manager or as a supervisor, you are doing an analysis that whether there is a requirement of a new job in the organization or not. Then the fourth exam method could be the logs and the diaries. Nowadays, we do not have these logs and diaries. These were the traditional methods which were used. Basically, it is the logs and the diaries gives you a kind of a report about that. If let's say there is too much of absenteeism, there is a retrenchment, employees are leaving the organization and they're going, or let's say they are every time there are medical excuses which are given, or there are too long, I would say that you are not able to retain the employees in the organization. So with that data, you come to know that there is something that the organization climate is not fit, and there is then you try to understand that by looking at your logs and diaries, that people are, because the HR is avoiding work, the HR is coming up with excuses because they are excessively burdened. So they'll come up with excuse, they'll come up with absenteeism, they'll come up with giving resignations and leaving the job and going switching to your competitors. So by looking at these datas in your diaries and logs, that is also one method to understand that whether there is a requirement for a new job in the organization or not. Then there are, how do you collect these different informations? So as I just said, employees, supervisors, managers are those people who help you collect this information. If you do not have a person who is having the knowledge, ability to do a proper job analysis, what we do is companies also appoint the job analyst. He is basically a person who is well trained in and is having experience of doing a proper job analysis and helping the management to understand that if there is a requirement for job. And by he also or she also uses these methods, that is by questionnaire, interviews and observations, or by looking at the logs, he'll come to know that what is the position of the organization, and he'll try to give solution to the management. Now, conducted by, so sources could be that from whom you get the data, and conducted by, it could be, as I just said, a HR manager. He or she can be an outside consultant for you, or he or she could also be the immediate supervisor or manager in that particular department. That is how it is, the small summary about the entire job analysis, that what are the methods, from whom do you get this data for conducting a proper job analysis, and who conducts it. Is it clear?
Yes, ma'am. Very clear, ma'am.
Yes.
Yes,
Okay.
ma'am.
So I think your next unit, that is the fifth unit, what we were talking about, I have discussed almost many things from that PDF. I'll just show you that PDF so that, when you read that, you are not into any state of confusion.
Excuse me, doctor. Could you please share a copy of the PPT with us? Can we get a copy?
Yeah, definitely. I'll share that. I'll share that with Smriti ma'am, and she can share that with you.
Thank you, ma'am.
Can you see the content which is available on your eGyan Kosh?
Yes, ma'am.
See, this is what we have just discussed, and what are the techniques we use for job analysis. It is questionnaire, it is interview. So you can see job evaluations are done, different types of plannings are done. What I have explained you is more detailed, so you can just go through these topics, these areas. I have As you can see right now, there are a few terms which are coming, which I would like to talk about. That is your job rotation. Job rotation, job enlargement, these are few of the vocabularies of HR. And enrichment. What is job rotation? Basically, what happens is to avoid boredom at workplace. What do companies do? They keep on rotating the employees from one job to the another. This is also very beneficial because for the employee, he also performs different jobs, but he is then not master of all the jobs, because we say a jack of all trades and master of none. So he knows how to do different types of work which are done in the organization, but he's not having a specialization in any specific area because he's always rotated. Usually we find that in banks we practice job rotation. The employees, the HR which is working there in bank, they are asked to rotate themselves for different jobs of bank. And this makes also, it is also beneficial for the bank that if any HR is on leave, so the work will not come to an end. It is another HR from the organization who can replace that HR and can do that work for the banks or for that organization. So job rotation, basically, it is something which is practiced from the employee's point of view to avoid boredom, to make him learn different natures of job. And from management side, if we say, it is basically that the services or the work does not comes to an end. There is no interruption in that. And it is because it is on rotation basis, so you always have somebody or the other who can perform that task in the organization. Let's come to what is job enlargement. These two terms, enlargement and enrichment, they differ from each other. When I say it is enlargement means adding more tasks to a job. It is basically horizontal expansion. You are not increasing the I would say rank, or let's say the grade, or let's say the pay of that particular individual, but you have increased the scope of his job. So it is enlarged. He or she is now working, taking care of different areas, different variety of tasks as the same job holder at the same position, but his vertical upliftment in that particular organization has not happened. Whereas when we say enrichment, it is completely different. Enrichment means that when you are enriching the job of the employee, you are talking about not only expansion of the job, but also you are enriching the job by providing him different opportunities to grow, contributing his or her ideas to the organization's success, giving him more responsibility, giving him more control in the organization. And also it brings kind of promotion, moving upward, vertical upward in the organization. So the employee is also motivated, the quality of the work output also increases, and the employee is satisfied also because it is giving him or her the higher rank and the position in that particular organization. Are these two terms clear? Three terms: job rotation, job enlargement, and job enrichment. Any questions?
Yes, okay, ma'am.
Shall we move ahead?
Yes, please.
Okay. So with that, I'm introducing a new concept, that is job evaluation. See, job evaluation and performance evaluation, there are two different terms. Evaluating a job does not mean evaluating the job holder. It is basically that you are fixing money worth or a relative value to that particular job in the organization. Like suppose I took an example few minutes back of a compensation manager. I don't know that who in my organization will be appointed as the compensation manager. But looking at the nature of the job, looking at the skill set which the compensation manager should have, looking at the rank where I'm placing that particular job in my organization, I'll be fixing a certain worth to that job. That is called as job evaluation. So that means I'm attaching certain salary or certain compensation with that particular job. So you are evaluating the job and you are fixing a value to that job. Is it clear?
Yes, it is.
Yeah. But when I do performance evaluation, let us understand the difference between these two terms. When I say it is performance evaluation, it is more about evaluating an individual, not the job. It is where if he or she performs as per the standard or as per the task which is given to him or her, you promote him, you give him different opportunities of growth, you give him different incentives, perks, benefits in the organization. And if he or she is not able to perform that particular job according to the standard which is set, you even give him punishment, or you give him, I would say, you demote him in that organization. So your rewards and punishment is something which is associated with performance appraisal. Job evaluation has nothing to do with performance appraisal. It is only fixing a relative value to each job in the organization, and basically it is used for the purpose of compensation procedures. Is it clear?
Yes, it is.
Any questions?
No questions, ma.
Okay. Let us start with the next unit then. That is your unit 6 of your second module, which is about recruitment and selection. I will just read out that from your second module. If you see, we have talked about HR planning, that is sourcing of human resource is the title of that block. We have talked about job analysis. We have talked about evaluation of doing it, that is job evaluation. We have talked about your description and specification. Let us talk about recruitment and selection. That is the next unit very quickly. I'll talk about what are the different sources of recruitment and how do you go with selection process. Uh, I request all of you to please mute yourself. Is the PPT, the PDF document visible to all of you?
Yes, it's visible.
Okay. So let us,
No, it's the PDF, not the PPT.
yeah, I am sharing. Just a second. Somebody is trying to join, I guess. Just give me 1 minute. Just 1 minute, my dear learners. Okay. I'll share that PDF again because if you want, I can show you the PPT also on the same content. You're more comfortable with the PDF or the PPT?
PPT should be fine.
PPT? Okay. I'll show you the PPT. I'll just share the entire screen, and as you see that PPT, you can just let me know. Okay, is that PPT visible to you?
Yes, it is.
Okay.
Yes,
So
ma'am.
Okay, so let us discuss about now HR management. When I talk about, we have, if I take it as a story, we started with procurement function. We've talked about that every business has certain objectives. They do go for HR planning. We go for job analysis. Job analysis is classified into job description and job specification. And finally, they go for recruitment. Now, when you are very clear with your description and specification, I can now invite candidates for applying for the job in my organization. So the process of basically generating a pool of qualified candidates for a particular job, that is called as recruitment. So it is called basically a process where you discover potential candidates. Why do we say potential candidates? Because they have that knowledge, skill, and ability, so they are potential. And candidates, because you haven't yet selected them, so they are not part of the organization. So that is why we call them as candidates. Recruitment has certain goals. First goal of recruitment is to attract qualified applicants. And if I talk about attracting qualified applicant, that depends upon the recruitment, how you have shared with the candidates and how impressive it is and why people are interested to be a part of your organization or why do they want to join it. Also, it encourages unqualified applicants to self select themselves out. What do we mean by this? If my recruitment or invitation is very clear that I look for a job, let's say I look for a candidate who has experience of 5 years and more, I look for a candidate who has a master's degree in HR, I look for a candidate who has certain skills. So all those who are unqualified, they will themselves be clear about it that this particular job is not for us. So it will save my time. It will give the clarity to the applicants that when the entire recruitment invitation is clear, so it will make the process also very very effective for the management. So it encourages, recruitment, it is something which encourages the unqualified applicants to themselves decide that this job is not fit for them and they should not apply for that job in the organization. Now, when I talk about the recruitment, it is said to be a two-way street. Why do we say it is a two-way street? Organization is looking for qualified applicants, whereas applicants are also looking for the potential, placement opportunities. So we say both of them are helping each other. When we go for recruitment, as an organization's point of view, you are looking for good people, qualified people, potential applicants having certain knowledge, skill, and ability to do a job. When I talk about, let's say, from the applicant's point of view, he's also looking or she's also looking for a company, for a firm which gives him or her good opportunities of job in that, or let's say future opportunities in that organization. So recruitment serves both of them. For the organization also it is helpful, for the employee or the candidate also it is very very helpful. Recruitment process, if I say, we usually hear a recruitment process from the organization's point of view, but I'll try to explain or give you an understanding about the recruitment process from the organization's point of view also and from the candidate's point of view also. Whenever we talk about recruitment, as we've just discussed a few minutes back, that your manpower planning helps you to know that there is a vacancy, and if there is vacancy, you go for job analysis, you go for description and specification, then further you go for recruitment, that is inviting people. So first thing from the organization's end, if I say there should be a vacancy, then only you will go ahead with the recruitment process. So the first thing in the organization is new position occurs. Second is you look for candidates, you look for potentials who have that particular knowledge, skill, and ability to be selected for that job. So there are different methods of looking for the candidates. It could be internal or external recruitment methods. We'll talk about it in few coming few minutes. Then it is in from the organization's point of view, if I say, from the pool of candidates which you the applications what you receive, you try to evaluate every candidate by a selection process. So recruitment is something which is very positive, which is inviting, but selection is something which is very negative process because you do screening here. So here you do an evaluation by applying various tests, by conducting interviews, by going for different types of reference, checks and everything, and then finally the one who fits for the job and he is able to impress the let's say the manager or the committee, the selection committee. You make a job offer or you give a job offer to him. This is how the entire recruitment process goes from the organization's point of view. Now, coming to from a candidate's point of view, if I say that is, if I talk about any candidate who is looking for a job in a particular industry, first he has to understand that for a particular position, what is the education he needs to achieve. So he'll be receiving the education accordingly. Let's say I just take that same example again of compensation manager. If you plan to be a compensation manager in any of the organization, you know that MBA in HR and specifically in the compensation specialization is something which is demanded. So you will get the education accordingly. Then you will choose the occupation. So you will be choosing the occupation that I am doing my masters in HR and I'm looking forward for the occupation as the compensation manager. Then what does the candidate does? He tries to acquire employment experience. What is this employment experience? Employment experience means the experience what you get through internships. Many times when we talk about these experiences, when you work, when you do certain let's say internships, when you do certain internships in the organizations, it gives you a clarity that what is going to be the organization culture, what is going to be the work in that particular industry or the firm, similar firms, what is the role responsibility, what you need to perform, and what are the expectations of the industry, and what actually where do you stand, and what actually you need to upgrade in yourself. So you get an employment experience. Then you start looking for your job openings, which comes through different these I would say platforms. You apply for different jobs. When you apply for different jobs, it is not that you apply only for one company. You might be applying for various jobs, which is shared by different let's say firms or companies or competitors. Then during the selection process, from a candidate's point of view, if I say, you try to impress the candidate company in the selection process. You come up with all your best skills, your best foot forward, so that you are selected in that selection process. And then let's say you have selection your job offers from 5 or 6 companies. You have given wonderful interviews, so you will evaluate the jobs and the companies, that which company should I job, which is giving me more opportunities, which is giving me good salary, which is giving me good environment, more prospects for growth and development. Then finally you accept or reject a job offer. So this is from the candidate's point of view, if I say, how he or she plans out the entire recruitment process. And we have also discussed about from the organization's point of view, how is the recruitment process. Is it clear?
Yes, ma'am.
Yes, it is clear.
Okay.
Yes, it is clear.
Yes, it is quite clear.
Okay, thank you. Let me share that content again. I was just talking about, the difference between the recruitment process at the organization level and at the individual level. Now we will be discussing few types of employments which are there. There are various types of employment. It could be a regular employment job. It could be a full-time or a part-time employment. It could be a job where you're talking about independent contractors. It could be a job on, let's say, where you are just leasing the employee, and the employers or the professional employer organizations are helping you to find, the best person who can be hired. It could be a temporary worker who is to be recruited, and it could also be a job of seasonal employees. When I talk about seasonal employee, that means during a particular season when there is demand for, let's say, human resource, so you hire that number of people, and once the requirement of that particular season is gone, so then you again fire them back. So that is what are the category, or that is basically what is the category of the seasonal employees is. Coming to a very important area of recruitment is internal and external sources of recruitment. When I talk about sources of recruitment, usually these internal and external sources are, let's understand meaning of these two terms. Internal, as I just said when we were talking about internal and external environment, something which is within. So if I say it is an internal source, it is the source where you are looking for people, looking for human resource within the organization. And when I say it is an external source through which I'm finding or I'm looking for the human resource, that is something which is going beyond the organization and finding out the human resource for the organization. Quickly, I'll talk about both of them and the different internal and external sources, because this is really very, very important. When I say job posting and bidding, usually what happens is when there is a vacancy and you know that you have internally the manpower or the HR who can apply for a particular job, management, what do? They post that job on their HRIS. We have just discussed a few minutes back what is HRIS. So you can relate with that. I was just talking also that it helps you in your recruitment process. So any kind of vacancy which comes in the organization, it is posted with the help of HRIS. The employees, they are able to see on their MIS that there is a vacancy, and if they feel that they have the knowledge, skill, ability, the qualifications and experience which is required for that job, they put forward their resumes and they bid for that job. That is what is bidding is. Bidding basically means the one who's having best of the knowledge, experience, qualification which is required for that job. The management selects that employee and he or she is given that particular job in the organization. Again, internal source. We are not calling or we are not inviting any fresh blood from outside. Second one is internal source could be promotions and transfers. I think we have heard about these two terms. And in a layman's language, if I ask you what is a promotion, so you would be saying, ma'am, when we, vertically a person goes upward in the hierarchy, that is called as promotion. And transfers are basically when we say about moving from one sister concern to the other. So if let's say a company has 3 or 4 different sister concerns or branches or subsidiaries, so you can do the internal recruitment by transferring the HR from one company to the other branches and subsidiaries which are there. Third could be as an internal source, employee referral. Employee referrals are basically the existing employees, those who are working with you. They are asked to give referrals that if according to them, they have somebody who can be hired or who can be given a particular job in the organization. So the existing employee give their references, and then without wasting time, without going for the entire recruitment process, selection process, and the tedious process to follow, you just follow the employee referrals and you select or you invite the people from the outside source. Re-recruiting the former employee and applicant says the next internal sources. The meaning itself, see, break the words, you'll understand. Re-recruiting, that means those who have worked with you previously and maybe they have retired, or maybe they have transferred from that particular city, or maybe they have left your organization because of any reason, health issue, or maybe maternity leave, or any reason could be there. So when you re-recruit the former means someone who has worked with you previously. That is also one way of looking your internal database. And the last one is looking at your internal recruiting database, that is, which is also called as human resource information system. Now, there are advantages and disadvantages both of internal sources. First, as I said previously also, that if you look for people within the organization, it boosts their morale. So the one who gets promoted, the one who is recruited through internal source, definitely his or her morale is, boosted. You are able to do better assessment of ability because you already know a person. It is something where internally you are doing an appointment, so they are not new to you. Definitely it reduces the cost also for some jobs, because otherwise you have to follow the entire selection process. It's a very good motivator for good performance, because if you really want the people to work and you want to boost their morale, so if you're doing the internal sources, they know that if we work hard or if we perform well, we will be given that chance of getting a promotion within the organization if there a vacancy comes. Then one advantage of internal sources also that you have to do only hiring at the entry level. because you're always promoting the existing manpower, so you don't have to look for every time outside the organization. At the basic level you do the hiring, and then those employees are only promoted from one hierarchy or one rank to the other. Now what is the disadvantage of this? Disadvantage is inbreeding happens. You don't have any fresh talent, which comes in the organization. You have the same ideas, same thoughts, same people giving same concepts. So that is something which is a limitation or a disadvantage of internal source. Also there are times when the one who's getting promoted, he or she would be would be very happy, and his or her morale might get boosted. But the one who's not promoted, one disadvantage is that their morale problems might exist, and then you will have certain problems that their morale is dipping down, and you have to motivate them, and you have to come up with very transparent performance appraisal methods, that why a person has been promoted if he or she has been to the higher rank. So these are few of the advantages and disadvantages. Also one more disadvantage is that you have to organize the management development programs, because what are you doing is you are promoting a person who is already there with you to the next level. So you need to train him, you need to conduct various MDP programs, which are called as management development programs also. External sources, if I say, that means again, let us understand the word. So it is moving outside beyond the organization. So how do you go outside the organization? There are colleges, there are universities. You go for you go in these colleges and universities. You do campus recruitments, and finally you try to get the students at the entry level. That is the freshers. You try to get them because they are ready to work at a very low salary, because they are not having that experience. You need to train them also, you need to give them basic understanding also. But then it is something which is very economical, because as I just said, recruiting the candidates from colleges and universities, they don't have that experience, so they don't have that bargaining power, the negotiating power for the wage and the salary. Then another external source could be labor unions. We have trade unions, labor unions, which also support the management, that if there is shortage of HR and we look for human resources, so through these external sources, that is through labor unions also, we can look for the HR. Then it is media sources. Media sources could be in the form of, let's say, newspaper, print media, or maybe through the radios, or let's say, like nowadays we have internet sources also, e-sources, through which we put the right, I would say, recruitment message. Now I think all of you can connect with me when I say right. That means after doing a proper job analysis, drawing a description and specification, and then coming up with a proper recruitment message for the candidates. So once you are very clear with it, you can pick up any source which is very economical, and through an external source you can call people who can apply for job in the organization. There are also employment agencies which help you to find the candidates. They charge a certain amount of commission from the candidate also and from the company also. But then you don't have to look everywhere, or you don't have to run everywhere. It is basically you need to refer, or you need to give your requirements to these employment exchange companies, and they help you in finding the right person for the right job. As we have discussed the internal sources, similarly for external sources also, there are advantages and disadvantages. If you read those points very quickly, it says, with external source, new blood brings new perspectives. People coming from outside, they have their own experience, they come up with different exposures, they have new perspectives, which is very helpful for the growth of the company also, because you don't have the same redundant kind of ideas which are there. So it is cheaper and faster than training. When we talk about internal source, if you're recruiting, as I just said, you have to spend money in training them. So many times what management do is, rather than spending money on training, they feel finding person from the external source is more cheaper. So this is basically what are the advantages, common advantages of external source. Disadvantages, as we have just discussed, that morale problems of the internal candidates who are not selected, it might be there. It will take a longer time or orientation time for the candidates, because when you are inviting someone from outside, you need to orient him, you need to give him instructions, you need to make him understand how does the company or the organization work. So that is where you have to spend a lot of time to make that person comfortable. I hope the internal and the external sources of recruitment are clear to you. Very sorry for being very fast, but looking at the time, I've just rushed with that topic. Any questions?
Yes, ma'am.
Yes.
But my question is more of a practical aspect. I saw one expression or statement on a job advert that I want clarity about.
Yeah.
After the description and method of application, there is that statement. It says canvassing will lead to total disqualification. So I don't know what canvassing means here. Thank you.
You're asking about that after you do description and specification and you invite people for applying for the job, how does it helps or how is it effective? Is that your question?
No.
Then
Under the method of application, they noted something which is like a warning. It says canvassing will lead to total disqualification. So I don't know what canvassing here means.
Acha. Okay. Canvassing means where you are promoting yourself. You know that I'm fit for this job. And this is basically which is not entertained also by the organizations, by the company, because that is purely a decision of the management. If they have to promote someone, if they have to give them him or her a higher rank or job, that should not be something which should be any kind of pressure which is coming from the employee's end. It should be purely a decision which should be taken by the management, looking at the knowledge, skill, ability, or talent what that employee has. So canvassing is something which is not, entertained or promoted, or it is something which is said to be, which is a very good exercise to be practiced in the organizations.
Okay, ma'am. Thank you. Understood.
Okay.
If I may also add on the same.
Yeah.
The word canvassing, I've also seen it in here a lot. What from you to add on what the doctor is saying is that sometimes it might be internal, but mostly it's external. When you're applying, you're usually an external candidate. So canvassing is not allowed. Mostly means that if you know someone within the organization, or you know someone who has power, that those people are not allowed to go influence decisions to make
Yes.
them to make
Yes.
management hire you.
Yes. Yeah. That is what I said. Management, they do not entertain this. They do not like this. That, you canvas that he or she is fit for a job.
Yeah, that is true. Yeah, thank you.
My dear learners, it is almost time, and I would request you that from your second module, we have covered many topics. That is HR planning. We have talked about recruitment. We have talked about the entire job analysis process. Please go through those, units which are shared. I completely understand that in a day's time it is not possible, but at least what we have discussed, or wherever you have a doubt in anything, or you want that it should be done from my side, that is something which I will be looking forward for from your end tomorrow in my tomorrow's academic counseling session. Smriti ma'am, are you there?
Hello, ma'am.
Smriti ma'am, not audible. Yeah.
Hello, ma'am.
Hello.
Yes, ma'am. Good evening, ma'am.
How was the session today?
I think my learners can give the answer on this rather than I saying anything on this.
No, it depends on both actually. So I think one of the learners, Muhammad, he want to ask something. You can ask, please.
Yes, Mohammed, please go ahead.
No, no, actually, it's more of an observation or something. With regard to MMPC 01, the course that speaks about management function and operational processes, I observed that some of the content we discuss here is related to that aspect. For example, yesterday we treated HRM
Related,
functions.
related to that aspect.
That means it means some of the things here describes what was written there. So do you
Okay.
think that?
Okay. Rasmeet, would you like to answer this?
Ma'am, actually, when we talk about management concepts, we have planning, organizing, directing, staffing. All these things are part of it. So, what Mohammed is saying is, when we are talking about human resource management, it comes under staffing. So, we do planning of HR, we do organizing of HR. If I am not wrong, Mohammed, that is what you are saying. The subjects are interrelated.
Yes, yes, they are interrelated. But with regards to our timetable, we started this class of HRM before doing that session.
Okay, actually, I want to give answer about this. Actually, you are thinking that we should have started MMPC 001 first. Is it so?
Yes, 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 yes.
Actually, it's not like that, Mohammed. That course, I have taken it in last because you, in between, you just read it. You will be able to understand everything over there. And these are the HR and business communication and other courses, courses. They are more interesting, and in between you can start studying MMPC 001 also. So, and last, if you have some doubt, you can ask in that academic counseling. That is why it's planned like that. But we have discussed with the program coordinator of MBA OL that can we do it like this. So he was saying it's okay. We can do. It's not like that that we have to organize counseling for MMPC 001 first. But you can study it at home. Okay.
Yeah, yes, ma'am, understood.
Understood. It's not important to take counseling for 001 first. We can go haphazardly. Okay. You can still say if you have any doubt.
No, ma'am, all the resources and materials are self-explanatory. They are all straightforward.
Yeah, they're all, and we don't need to go in at like we have to do first MMPC 1, then 2, then 3. It's not like that. We can do anyone. And in between you can study that also. Okay.
Okay, ma'am.
Okay. So thank you very much, Dr. Rasmeet, and all the learners. And tomorrow's schedule is almost same like today's. First, we are going to have MMPC 007, and in the evening of India, we'll have MMPC 002. Okay. So be prepared. As per the schedule, I have already sent you. Okay. So good night.
I would request all the learners to please read block 3 and come for the academic counseling. So that will be, as I shared previously also, it will create a connect between you and me.
Okay.
Ma'am, should I stop the recording?
Yes. Yes, please.
Thank you.
Thank you.
All right, thank you. See you
Thank you,
tomorrow.
ma'am.
Grace, are you there in the WhatsApp group or not?